Lower thirds are that element at the bottom of your videos that add that touch of professionalism to any broadcast. They're going to tell people who you are and maybe where to find you, or they could emphasize that important point in your video, or even deliver that oh so important call to action. In this video, we're going to cover 3 ways to easily create lower thirds for any streaming software, so let's dive in. For the first lower third, let's start with just kind of that basic image. So in vMix and lots of other streaming softwares, you're able to take just a simple PNG file. So it's an image with kind of the background transparent, so it can easily overlay on top of your video. You're going to create what's called an overlay. And with vMix specifically, you're able to do lots of different actions with these overlays. So you can have them slide in from the side, or you can have them fade on depending on what type of lower third you want to create. And then you can even set triggers so that certain things will happen, like say when you activate your overlay, it'll slide in, stay for 7 seconds, and then disappear. You can do that in some other softwares as well, but I want to talk to you just about creating those lower thirds. So right here, the way I create most of them, if we're doing just the basic lower third like that, is in something like Keynote. You can use Canva, you can use anything that's going to get you that PNG file. What I do is I basically just always have some templates kind of ready to go. I'll just copy and paste it and reopen it. So it'll look something like this. You're just gonna, for the most part, fill the screen here because I wanna make sure I have a big enough file, and then I will adjust it in the streaming software so it's the right size for that screen. But then I just have, it's really just an image. So it's an image. I have usually a little box that is over top that image. So you'll see I have just a little black box I drew and made it very transparent. Dropped the opacity to 75% so that you can see a little bit of the image kind of behind there. And you'll see I cut down the image. And then I always like to have the little logo over here just to add a little element. So we add the logo for like the Quarantine Idol, or for Music 11 Music Career Center, I have their logo there, or just anything like that. That's how I kind of build these simple lower thirds. So let's quickly do a brand new one. So we're going to start new. And for these ones, I always want to do white because I know I'm going to generally create a black border. You're going to want to do something that's going to allow you to easily make the rest of the image transparent, because we'll talk about that in just a second. But let's say go here. And I don't need any of this. I just want a blank, brand new blank slide. And all I am going to do is I'm going to draw a shape. I'm going to start with this and have it about where I want in the screen. Some of this is a little bit of just like, how do you want to build it out? What kind of guesswork do you want to do? And then I'm going to build kind of that basic shape right about here. I'm going to make this a little thinner. There. And so that's kind of how I want. What I'm doing here on the screen is basically picturing this entire screen as the video, the way it'll look, and about where in the video, in the actual space, that I would want this lower third to be. And if anything, I'm making it a little bigger than I would want on the actual screen, airing on that side, so that way it's easy to shrink down in the actual streaming software. So I have this made, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab an image. So I'm going to go here, and we're going to open a new window, and I like to just go to like Pexels or something like that, someplace to get a simple, easy image. And let's find music. And I'm looking for something that's going to look kind of cool. This is actually where I got the one that I showed you earlier. So I'm looking for something. Right there is the one I actually used earlier. That is going to just add a little element as that like background piece. Actually, let's do this. I want to do video. There's some there, but nothing I'm super loving. I've used that one in the past, actually. I want to make sure we have a little bit of something dynamic. And this, you can ultimately choose whatever you want. I kind of like this. We're going to go with this one. Kind of that drone shot. Okay, so now that we have the image, what I'm going to do is I am actually going to grab that image and drag it into here. And then I am going to go ahead and kind of align it about where I'm going to go ahead and send it to the back. So I have the black right there. And I want to kind of figure out what I all want included in there. So I'm going to shrink this image down a little bit to about right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and if you double click, you can then, these little boxes will come up and you can drag down to get the appropriate size that you want. So I'm going to drag it up here. So now I have an image that looks about like this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back onto this black box. I'm going to turn it down to, let's go 50%. Let's go 50% for right now. I'm going to click on that image, and that's about, so exactly where the drone is on here is kind of where I want that frame to be. So I'm going to drop this down so they line up. And this might be the time where you want to actually zoom in on your image. And you'll notice the end here doesn't line up, so I'm going to tap it over a little bit to get everything lined up. Then I'm going to zoom in, and everything looks pretty solid. Just perhaps a little bit, but for that I'm just going to bring the black on top, bring that up, the black box. So now it looks to match all along the line. And then that is what we have for that piece of our lower third. Now this is where you can easily add another little box right there. So let's just do that. And what we're going to want to do is make it the exact same width. There we go. And I like to do a square, so 230. You can see now it is a perfect square. This could be where you could leave it black, all black, and have a dark logo in there, or if you are going to have different color logos, I will turn it white. And usually what I'll do then at this point is actually create a line border, like so. The thing you have to be careful with there is you're going to notice it actually messes with, it goes above and beyond that little border. So you could do one of two things. You could either add a border here so that the whole, but that is the issue. Like you're going to notice we actually get a little bit of opacity there. So if it's a solid color overlay or a solid color image there, or you flip this actually is what you could do, so you could send it back. So now I have this behind, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually increase the black there, so we have all black. But we still want that effect, so we're going to turn down to 50% here, and that's where I actually turn the image. So the black box, the black bar is solid, and the image is faded. And the reason you have the image opacity kind of faded with the black box behind it is so you still get that nice crisp black showing through, which is what we want versus a white image. So if I move there, you see kind of what the white looks like, but we want the black image showing through. So that would be how I would create the kind of underlying piece of the lower thirds. So with something like vMix, what I'll usually do is I will always create a blank lower third like this, because then I can, in vMix they have a title creator, so you can add in some text that will allow you to change it to whatever you want during the broadcast. So especially if you are not on camera, if you're just producing, this is going to be an easy spot where for you to type any questions, to type any specific call to action that comes up during the broadcast. You can type it right there in the blank title graphic and then just switch through those. Or even if you have time ahead of time, you can have several of them selected if you're able to sit at your computer and switch through those. However, most of the time I end up being on camera, or I want all the lower thirds created and kind of approved ahead of time. So at that point is where I will go through and add in the title. So here I'm just going to drop a title right there. Let's go test. Let's go. I'm going to just so we have something actual to work with. And I really don't like that. So let's go to monostrate. We're going to use monostrate, or however you say it. I can never say it correctly. We're going to turn it white. So that's what it looks like. And then we're going to go, let's go 100. Let's see, that's probably a little big, actually. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do 100. I might do 90, though. Then I'm going to kind of line it up where I want. And then I always like to add a second line. With like where people can find you. So I do that, and then we need to turn it white again. And I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to leave it Helvetica New. I don't like. I want this right here. Usually I want the big line to be kind of a little further out. This is kind of just, you're playing with personal preference on this. If you want everything to line up at the very end, like that's going to be like right about there. Actually, that's off a little, which is going to bother me, so we're going to go there. But I would not use that. I would probably use railway, in all honesty. So there you go. That is what kind of that basic lower third would look like. Forgot to add in a logo here. I don't know if I have a good logo kind of on hand. Let's use this one. This is for another stream that I'm working with. So it looks something like this, and just kind of fill that in. I like to take up as much space as possible on this without it bleeding into the edges. So that looks pretty solid. And so that is exactly how I'd go through create this, the lower third. And again, once you create this once, I keep them and just kind of copy and paste. So you could even just copy and paste the slide. So you're going to copy and you're going to paste in a new slide, and then you can edit, create your slide. And so really all you're doing is changing the wording around, maybe changing the logos if you have different brands or different businesses that you want to feature their logo in there, or it could just be your stream's logo the entire time. So that's super easy to create. Okay, so from here we need to actually export this so we can use it in our streaming software. The way we're going to do that is actually we're going to export it as a PNG. And again, I like to use Keynote, but you can really use any software that's going to give you a PNG file. So in order to do it on Keynote, what you need to do is actually go in here. We have our color, like I mentioned, we had our color set to white here as the background. We're going to go to no fill for the background. So I'm on format, you're going to find background, and I'm going to go no fill. And then I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to go to export images. And right now you'll see we're on the JPEG one. We're going to go down to PNG. There we go. And then want to make sure that export with transparent backgrounds is checked. So that is checked. So now I'm going to go export. And I'm going to go on the desktop. And I'm going to go test lower third. And we just exported that. All right, now I just wanted to quickly show you how to bring this in, this lower third, into your streaming software, or at least an example of how to do that. I go through it a little bit more on vMix in a different video, and I will do a deep dive here. I'm going to show you how to bring it into Ecamm, but I'll do a deep dive on just using Ecamm, which is my favorite Mac software, in this video here, so be sure to check that one out. But let's bring this into Ecamm right now. So you can see I'm kind of in Ecamm. And we have the overlays box right here. I'm simply going to tap that, which this is select an image. I'm going to go to the desktop, and I'm going to find my image right there. I'm going to tap open, and there you go. I just added that overlay right there on the screen. You can see it right there. Resizing it, I can easily resize it however I'd like. So if I click on it, I can make it smaller, I can make it bigger. This is exactly how you're going to create your overlay. And then in Ecamm, to turn it on and turn it off, you go right here and right here, right here and right here. Pretty simple. That's just a quick example. Just wanted to show you how that's done here in Ecamm. Our next level of lower thirds we're going to talk about is more animated type of lower thirds. Now I'm just going to use our basic template that we started with here and kind of add on to it just to kind of give you an example of what you can do. This is going to be something where you can really let your creativity kind of grow and fly and just use your imagination. But here we have our lower third. You're going to notice it's all separate elements right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go through and grab everything here, and I'm going to group those. So it's all grouped, it's all one image now, or kind of all tied together. So now that we have everything all grouped together, I'm going to click that so it's highlighted, and then I'm going to go up here and click animate. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add in an effect. And there's all kinds of effects here, from blur, you can kind of see what that looks like, to dissolve, to drift, drift and scale, and all kinds of things. We're going to use just for this example, we're going to use iris. So you see it kind of, let's watch it one more time what this does. That just kind of appears like that. So there you go. We have some kind of unique animation for our lower thirds. You could also even go in and kind of build things in different orders. So right now everything's grouped together. If I ungroup it, we are going to, and then we do this, for example. Let's move this out of here. And we're going to go here, and we're going to group all of that. So we have the logo separated out here, and then we have everything else selected right here. So I'm going to go and add the iris, so it builds in with the iris. But then I'm going to move our Badger Talks logo here right back in and try and get it lined up correctly. So that's lined up like it should be. And then I'm going to click add, and let's find let's see, what do I want to do? Let's see what fade and scale looks like. Preview. See, that's a pretty solid one. So we'll try and do, oh no, let's see. Let's do wipe. So we have iris, and then we have fade and scale. So yeah, let's do fade and scale. And you're going to see we have fade and scale, and this is order 2. So now if I go here and I go to play, we start with the white screen. We add in that piece, and then the logo comes in right after on a next click. All right, so now you're going to see we have our animated lower third completely built. So I'm going to tap and let that play, and tap again, and there comes the Badger Talks one right there. So perfect, everything looks great. Let's exit that. Now we need to export this one. So again, I'm going to go here to the color fill. I'm going to go no. Then we're going to go up to export. And we want to actually go and click animated GIF, an animated GIF. And we're going to go here and we have auto advance. I'm going to turn this on a little faster. But we want to make sure we have, again, checked export image with transparent backgrounds. And then go ahead and click next. It's going to pop up, and I'm going to do test lower third animated, just so I know what it is. Exports, and then we're going to jump back over to Ecamm here on Ecamm, and we're going to go here and click, again, the new image overlay. And there's our test lower thirds animated. Add that in, and there you go. It definitely needs to be resized and adjusted. Whoops. Definitely needs to be resized. All right, come on here. Let's grab that. There we go. And so you're going to want to, when you're designing your lower third, you're definitely going to want to play around with it, make sure it looks great, like make sure it works well. But this is an example of what you basically need, what the little skills are to actually make this happen and to make it look good. Just want to break in here before we jump to our final way to create lower thirds for your live streams is to be sure to, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button, hit the like button, really helps us out. And also don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's honestly the best way you can show support for us because it helps more people find out about the channel and decide if this channel is right for them. And it also makes sure that you don't miss a single video. I have a lot of really cool tutorials already in the works, including my favorite live streaming platform for Macs. We're gonna do a deep dive on that, and you're not gonna wanna miss out. So back to the video. All right, so now let's jump into After Effects and kind of go over that entire process of creating lower thirds. So in After Effects, you're gonna wanna click to create your new composition. I like to create the 4K, 24K frames per second, just so I have enough real estate, even if I am recording in 4K, otherwise I can always shrink it down. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add our title. So let's just quick add some title like live events. Perfect, that'll work. And then I'm gonna highlight and I'm gonna go change the size of that to get it to about what I want. If this was, say, the full screen, what that actually would look like. So I'm gonna go with 200 there. And I am also going to line this up right away. Very first thing, kind of line it up about where I'd want it on the screen, again, as a lower third element. There we go, about right there. And I'm gonna move ahead to about 1 second or so, and I'm gonna hit P for position and then add a position keyframe. So this is the ending point where I want, once it's fully all the way on the screen, this is where I want that lower third to be. So then I'm gonna move back to the beginning and then move the position here, and I'm gonna keep moving until this lower third gets all the way off the screen. So I'm gonna keep moving, and now it's all the way off the screen, and you see when I hit play, it kind of slowly gets added on there, which is good. It's kind of that's about the movement we want, but I wanna make sure that I have motion blur turned on, so those little circles there is motion blur. But I don't yet want to turn that on for the whole thing. Now, let's add our second line. I always like to have that kind of second line like I mentioned before. So this one, let's just do youtube.com for right now. That'll work just fine. And again, I'm gonna get this to be the size and everything that I want. So for that second line, I definitely want it smaller. We're gonna non-bold it, so we're gonna go regular. And then I'm gonna drop it down to, let's go 100. And try it there. That looks about right. So I'm gonna move it into, again, that final position. And notice I'm on the timeline. I am in that spot where I have about a second in where I have the keyframe already for the first line. And let's line it up here. It's off just a little bit. There we go. So that's exactly how I want it to end when everything is fully on the screen. So it looks great. So now again, tap P for position. I'm gonna add a keyframe. So I add a keyframe there, that's the ending keyframe. And I wanna actually move this. I want this to come in a little bit later. So I'm gonna move it ahead, and then I'm gonna add a keyframe. Well, I'm gonna take and move that, so just by moving that, because I have the playhead at the very beginning, and I'm moving that position so that it is all the way off screen. And then I'm gonna turn on the motion blur. So now when we play, it's gonna move slower than it normally will because of everything that's happening here on the computer. But you can see how that kind of looks. And it's not quite there yet. It's getting closer, but it's not quite where I want. Let's see, how should, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna move this, I want it to come on faster. So I'm gonna move this back in, but then I'm gonna move shift that whole composition a little bit slightly. So now it starts a little later, comes in a little later. All right, looking better, looking better. I'm a little more okay with that. We're gonna move it again. Really what I'm trying to do is to get that youtube.com, that second line, moving faster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap this first keyframe, and I'm going to keep moving that position. So the more I move that position, the faster it's going to end up moving in order to get to that ending point. So now as you can see, it comes in a little bit later than the live events line, than the main line. So it's getting closer to being where I want. It's not too bad. That's not too bad. Probably could crank it even more, actually. Let's go here. Yeah. Let's do a little more here. It's not quite there yet. Getting closer. I think I'm also going to make this live events one come on a little faster as well. So I want to move that further out. And then it's a little bit better. It's hard to tell right now because we do have so much going on with this computer that there is a little bit of drag because I'm recording the screen as well. But I'm going to keep messing with this some. So let's crank it a little more. It's closer to what I want. We're making progress for sure. Let's try this again. I'm going to move. The live events is not quite, that main line is not quite where I want it yet. So let's go further out, further out. And that's not too bad. It's getting definitely closer. Still not positive. I still fully like that bottom one. We're going to give that one a little more. All right. All right. That's pretty good. I like that. So I'm going to move towards the end, and I just added a keyframe for the end position and keyframe for the end position. This is not the very end position. This is the how long I want them to stay on. So I'm going to offset this by a little bit, and then I want them all the way off screen at this point. So I'm going to copy this first keyframe, and then I'm going to click back there and paste that keyframe. I'm going to copy and paste, and that's going to help ensure that they move on and off kind of with that same speed almost. So they end up in the same position. So there you can kind of see what it looks like. They stay on for about 5 seconds, and then they whiz off as well, just the same way they came on. But I'm gonna move it a little closer. I want this to happen a little faster, so let's move this over just a little bit more and see how that looks from when they leave. Okay, so I kind of really like the way they leave there. That's looking pretty good. Not gonna lie, that's looking pretty good. All right, so I like that. I'm gonna go export, and I add to render queue. And then what you're gonna wanna do when you render it is you're gonna wanna go and click RBG plus alpha, and then okay. And then you're gonna go ahead and name it whatever you want. Let's go lower thirds After Effects. So just a little shorthand for that. And then I'm going to export, and I'm going to skip you that. And this is kind of what this is going to be what our final lower third looks like. And there you have it. That is the After Effects lower thirds. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully it kind of gives you an idea of what is possible. That's really what we're trying to do here, is just give you a little taste of what's possible. So that's really the basics behind any graphic that you're going to want to put into your live stream. Now, really, the only thing holding you back is your imagination. So I would love to see what you create. So be sure to share that with me. You can find me on Instagram, or just leave something in the comments. I would love to see the type of things that you're creating for your streams and for your videos. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll see you in the next one.